Om Sadashiva-samarambham Shankaracharya-madhyamam Asmadacharya-paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam Ishvaro Guratmati Murti Veda Vibhagine Yomabda Vyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha Sava Vedanta Sedanta Gocharam Tamagocharam Govindam Paramanandam Satguru Pranatoshmaham Om Om Shanti 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 Om. So we are back with Drsya Viveka, and in the ebook we are on the page 25, coming almost to the beginning of the verse 12. We stopped about the technical issue here. So the last paragraph we read was the one that says, whatever is in the field of thought of these vrittis is registered and experienced by the mind, and thus the objective external world is experienced. We know we have the aham thought, aham vritti, and then the avritti in respect to the objects, and that is going to bring about the objective world, external world of experience. We know there is the internal world of experience. In the absence of the external world, I experience my inner impressions in regarding to the external world as subtle memories or impressions or vasanas. The external world is experienced only because of vrittis. So we will establish, the logic was being established that without vrittis, which vrittis? Aham and idam. Yeah? Thoughts about I am, I exist, and the world. So without vrittis, there is no experience. We know that, and we know that by observing and examining our experience as well, including the experience of deep sleep, nirvikalpa samadhi. Vrittis are responsible for the subjective world in the dream world and in the awakened state, and the objective external world in the awake. Once the vrittis are dissolved, the world is not experienced. So we go to the nirvikalpa samadhi or deep sleep, the vrittis, they subside, and then there is no experience of objects, because vrittis are by definition objects, okay? When the mind goes blank, for example, the world may be very much present, but it's not experienced. So it's saying that if we go into a certain state, the mind may be suppressed, and then we will say so, and then it's blank, I'm experiencing nothing, but the world remains, but it's not experienced. The thought part of the mind also functions by its associations with the ego, with the aham. Thought associated with the ego, the cidābhāsa, reflected consciousness, registers also the absence of experience in deep sleep. So there is a certain vritti, as we know, a pranya vritti, which is a certain state in which the I am is there, but it's subconsciously it experiences the absence of objective world, let's say, it does do so by activating the vasanas in dreaming and projecting an internal world of experience and in the awake. So we have the three states. We understood the mechanics of this. There are no experience without vrittis. And even in the deep sleep states, there is the vritti, the pranya vritti, that is going to experience what? The absence of objective world, or blankness, or emptiness, or nothingness, or the void, or howsoever we want to put it. But the point to be made here is that the void is not the self. The void is just the absence of tangible objective experience, objective experience. But it is by itself an object of experience. The non-experience of objects is by definition an experience of blankness. A technical question comes up though. So that's where we begin today. The technical question comes up. One can say that the internal world is projected by thought, but can one say that the external world is also projected by thought? So, because in the paragraph, in the previous paragraph, there was this notion that in the awakening, it projects an external world of experience through the sense organs, with the help of the sense organs, the mind, the vrit, I am, with other vrits, is going to project the external world. So this is a concept that brings a lot of confusion in the world, because we have to understand in which way the jivas, vritis, are going to project the world, and in which way it does not have any power to project anything, So we're going to look into it, this technical apparent contradiction. So it's easy for us to understand that in the dream state, or when we imagine things, we dream through the awakened state, we are projecting our inner reality, or our view of the world, our interpretation of the world, and it feels different for every individual. So there is a certain way by which we project, or we superimpose a certain reality, a certain unique or individual reality to the world, which is colored by our vasanas, our tendencies, our likes and dislikes, and so on. So we have no question about that we do project our internal world by thought. But can we say that we can project this external world with the power of thought, the vritis, So we're gonna go slow until we clear all possible confusion or contradiction here. If I would have the power to project the world, I would be at the same status, I would receive the same status as the creator, Ishvara, because I'm projecting the world. This would mean that when the thoughts are not present as well, the world would become non-existent. So, and then I stopped projecting, and then the world disappears. And then I have to assume that when I go to deep sleep or Nirvikalpa Samadhi, the world disappears. No, it does not disappear. It disappears for me because I'm no longer experiencing the pratibhasika. The vyavaharika is there, but my pratibhasika reality is not available because the vritis are suppressed. So the thoughts are not present, the world remains existing. The external world is not projected by my thoughts, it's created by the Lord. But can the Lord create this world alone? Not really, you understand? It requires what? It requires jivas, thoughts, words, and deeds and actions. So to the extent that the jivas participate and keep providing into the macrocosm causal body, it's vasanas, its intents, its desires and fears. So the world keeps sustained by this. So several times I have seen, and you probably have heard me say, by Swami Paramarthananda, in which way Jiva, Atma, is co-creator with Ishvara. But Jiva provides, it's like a labor, it's a labor, and so much labor is producing actions, producing vasanas that lives behind vasanas. And it's based on this material that Ishvara sustains, protects, and destroys the world, and recreates as well, again and again from the same vasana load. It brings about after pralaya the new universe as a continuation after that deep sleep of Maya, so to speak. The external world is not projected, it's projected by the Lord. It is already done there. And so how can the author say the external world is created by my thoughts? So there are 2 points to be understood here. So one is that my inner world, which is a projection, is really my subjective power to superimpose on the Vyavaharika, and then I have my private world. So everybody has a private world. Have we ever thought about that? So everybody lives in a bubble, and when things are tough, people tend to stay more and more enclosed in one's bubble, okay? It's my subjective view of the world. You know, even if the objective view begins contradicting my subjective view, I can go in denial. I can go in any kind of mechanism to protect my bubble. So we have this power to project our world through our vasanas, our thoughts. You know? But the external world does not care for that. The objective world remains there because our thoughts have no power to bring about any significant immediate change in the way the objective world presents itself, because it's a mechanism, okay? It's a mechanism of thoughts, words, actions, and the results that keeps reshaping the universe, reshaping the Dharma field, the field of interaction. So everything is changing. It belongs to the totality of all factors that is known as Daivan. It's another understanding of the Lord. You know, it's a totality of all factors. And then within all the factors, there is the Jiva Atma producing their desires and fears and tendencies, you know, so that this universe is reshaped to the Jiva Atma, so that Jiva Atma can grow and learn some certain basic lessons that are conducive to self-knowledge and liberation. Huh? So, but here the Swami is gonna go more into the understanding that the world, this notion, this concept that the world projected by one's very thoughts is the notion, is the basis of the subjective idealism of Buddhism. He does not elaborate on that. I don't know much about that, but it says that there are some spiritual schools that presents the fact that thoughts alone can affect the world as we experience it objectively. But here the author seems to say, I love these seems. Here the author seems to say that the external world is projected through the sense organs by one's thoughts, okay? So it is confusing. It's a technical confusion when he presents the sense organs, and even more if he would have clearly stated through the sense instruments of reception and action. If we are creating the world through our thoughts and our perception of the world and the response, and then we would be saying that the subjective reality, you know, which is the pratibhasika, has a power to interfere directly with the pratibhasika, which is not really the case, okay? So we don't have the power. A lot of people would love to have the power. A lot of people sell this idea because it's very attractive. So as if you are God and you can create your own reality, as they say. So how are we meant to understand this? By understanding the difference between Ishvara creation of the world and thought created, jivas created thoughts of the world. The former, the Ishvara creation, is called Ishvara Shristi, a criação de Ishvara, and the later is called Jiva Shristi. Ishvara has created external world already, but the external world does not create any problem for me. Here Swami Paramathananda say the external world is created and it does not have any intrinsic value besides the fact that it's energy and matter, the 5 elements, and it does not create any problem to anybody. So where our problems begin? Our problems begin when we start developing raga and dvesha, desires and aversions, and then we have problems, okay? But how can we develop raga and dvesha against the 5 elements and the configuration of 5 elements if they are basically value neutral? How can I develop ragas and dveshas? And then comes the power of creation of the Jivatma. It projects value on pure matter, okay? The 5 elements, different configurations, which fundamentally are the 5 elements. Jivatma projects value on those objects, dense object and subtle object, and then you start developing preference, desires, likes and dislikes, aversion. So this is the part of the co-creation of the Jiva, you understand? Because Ishvara provides the physical material universe. Out of the physical material universe, we extract impressions that create the mental universe, subjective universe, the mind of God, the macrocosm mind of God subconsciously, and then also consciously as the macrocosm, subtle body of the universe. And all of that is being created by what? By Jiva Atma attributing value to things that are attributeless, valueless. They are neutral value. Jiva projects. Why? Because somehow he develops certain tendencies or vasanas or likes and dislikes. And then the world and all this, within all its configuration, start presenting problems for the Jiva. So this is a profound way to understand in which way Jiva is really adding up to the creation, okay? By superimpose value on something that is value free, value neutral, as James or our scriptures tend to say. So far, so good. So, but here, Swami P is going to stay within the understanding that Ishvara creates the external world, and the Jiva superimpose its thoughts, its notions, based on what I like, what I don't like, over the creation of the Lord. So there are 2 different creations. So one is the Lord creating, but the Lord creates it through thought or not thought. This would be another technical question that Swami P does not present here. How does the Lord create? It creates from the word, from the thoughts, from the desires and fears, because you need to have this energy, this create energy, which is based on the thought. And the mind of the creator is the totality of all thoughts in all the 3 levels of the universe, okay, including on the unconscious or subconscious, on the vasana level. So there is this creation, which is the creation of the entire system, universe, and then there is these jivas, individual, personal thoughts, based on what? On what I want to experience, what I do not want to experience. So whereas when my thoughts perceive the external world, I relate with the external world and I develop likes and dislikes, then that part of the world with which I develop ahaṅkṛtyupādānaṃ and mamaṅkṛtya is capable of giving me joy and sadness, and this is samsara. So Ishvara projects, as we say, I somehow contact the world of objects. I'm fascinated by experience object, and then I develop likes and dislikes, and with that I develop the ego, the ahaṅkṛtya, I and mine, and mamaṅkṛtya, I and my identification, I and my body, I and my this, my that, and so on. And then we are trapped in samsara. Why? Because we have project value to objects, and we were caught up in a field of interaction which we don't have control, as we know, to attract only what we like. The intrinsically non-hurt or non-pleasing objects of the world, so they cannot hurt anybody, they cannot please anybody, except in our subjective perception that makes it feel real for us, because we experience emotions. It's unbelievable, the creation of you. So the intrinsically no hurting, no pleasing value of the objects the observed world by the hurting and or pleasing objects experience the experienced world by the Jivatma. The observed world is the Ishvara Shrishti, and the experienced world is the result of converting the creation of Ishvara, which is a world that can be observed but cannot be given value. So the result, this passage is beautiful. The observed world is Ishvara's creation. So we can observe it objectively. The experienced world is a totally different matter. It's a conversion of what? Of Jiva Atma, converting the experienced world into the observed world into the experienced world. Converting the observed world in the experienced world by what? By attributing value or likes and dislikes to the objects of the world, the objective world. This conversion happens because ahamkara and mamakāra, and only that alone is samsara. This conversion happens because the ego and its likes and dislikes, and only this ego is samsara. It creates samsara. It creates value to the universe in which the souls remain locked into this cycle. This cycle that is also explained on this level as samsara, infinite rebirths, coming back again and again to the will of samsara. Therefore, thoughts are responsible for the creation of the experienced world, okay? And it's going to remain this level, this pratibhasika level. It remains for every soul. It's a bubble. It's unique. It's designed by each soul according to its vasana load. That experienced world is the creation of the vrittis of the Jivatma. So at any point, if you have any contribution or questions or considerations, please interrupt me, okay? Vidyaranya discusses this elaborately in Dvaita Viveka Prakaranam in Panchadas. In this verse, the author here is talking about the Jiva's creation, the experienced world. Okay, it's talking about the Jiva's creation, the experienced world, not the observed world, which is created by thoughts. Moksha is reducing, this is so beautiful, moksha is reducing the experienced world into the observed world. It's so beautiful, so simple, and I mean, I'm fascinated by these jewels presented by the unfoldments of Swami Paramarthananda. And he's so honest, he just say that moksha is reducing. He's not really canceling the experience world. He does not present it as something, like, it's only very rare individuals that are going to have the perception of the observer world and not experiencing anything, No, moksha is reducing the experienced world and increasing the observed world, which is nothing more than looking at the world objectively with a sense of equanimity, a sense of, it's all God's creation, and I don't project value. Why? Because I have diminished my vasana load, my likes and dislikes, what I want, what I don't want, by the means of understand that I'm already whole, full, and complete. Therefore, I don't need to chase things to complete myself. So, in this verse, he's talking about that. Moksha is reducing the experienced universe into the observed universe by the elimination or reduction of ahamkara and mamakāra, I and mine, my likes and dislikes, and I am, and I want what I want, and I do not want what I do not want. So just imagine a world that we become experiencing, witnessing experience witnessing entity, because we say that what we are in consciousness in Brahman is a non-experiencing witnessing entity. Non-experiencing witnessing entity is something difficult to wrap our mind around. But on the experiential level, moksha is come to a point in which you can be the experiencing entity, observing the world free from the pull of attraction and repulsion produced in the mind of the ignorance of the samsaris. Okay, why? Because you understood the game, you understood the system, you understood in which way you are feeding to the system, you understood that likes and dislikes are the problem, you understood that you cannot suppress them, you can understand the system, and then once you understand the system, you have a more clear mind, and then you understand the true nature of the system, and then your likes and dislikes shrink to a certain proportion so that you experience more the observation of the world and less the experience, which connect to one's desires and fears. Very, very beautiful. I love it. Then the relative pleasure and pain will diminish as well. So these pleasure and pains are going to diminish big time. Ayani is described by Krishna in Bhagavad Gita as the one who is free from the mind notion and from the I notion. So the aham and the ahamkara, they are reduced. The individual is free from that tendency, which is based on ignorance and identification with one's likes and dislikes. Okay, so same in comfort as well as in discomfort, and that is also present often as forbearance, or titiksha, and so on. So it doesn't matter if it brings comfort to the body mind or not. The yoni is the one who has diminished, this level of experiencing the world through one's vasanas, regardless of circumstance of the field of experience to be adverse or extremely discomfort. So this self-knowledge is going to immunize or to reduce the pain the pain derived from bad karmas. And the yoni is not free from bad karma, because bad karmas can happen on different levels, including on planetary levels or nation levels or universal levels and so on, as we know. Isn't Vedanta something so incredible? Huh?
I'm just sitting here going, wow.
So beautiful.
It's beautiful. Yeah.
Then Swami Paramarthananda finished here, say Vedanta is not an academic exercise, but an intellectual transformation which should change my perspective, such that even my own relations should be seen as Ishvara's property, which includes our physical body. This is freedom from I and mine, ahamkara and mamakara. This is the only option for liberation. Removing ahamkara, removing mamakara, by seeing everything as Ishvara's property, is the only method conducive to liberation. Why I say conducive to? Because this is a level of understanding of seeing the creator and seeing the creation and seeing that everything belongs to Ishvara, and then I will develop this sense of freedom, because the notion that I and mine is largely diminished, okay? And then I see everything as Ishvara's property. So, of course, the understanding of I, the subject, the no-experiencing, witnessing entity, as Satya, is also another method to produce liberation. So the Sajamitya usually is not efficacious without this understanding that everything is Ishvara's property. So it needs to be developed, this understanding. Otherwise, one goes in great confusion later on. Okay, can we move on? Next verse. It says that the one insentient subtle body, which is constituted of mind and ego, goes through the three states, and it's born and it dies. So again, the Vidyaranya presents as the insentient subtle body. We know that the subtle body is inert matter, but it's going to produce the reflecting medium that is going to bring about the ego and the mind, okay, the mental emotional aspect of the ahaṅkṛta, as well the ego, which is the intellectual discriminating aspect of the ahaṅkṛta. So we have this subtle body which is inert by nature, but it brings about the reflection, the reflected consciousness, okay, which has different functions, including the mental emotion and the determining aspect. And this ego, this ahaṅkṛta, goes through the three states, and this ahaṅkṛta is born and dies. Okay, so he is presenting the ahaṅkṛta as something that is born and dies. So evidently, we know that the reflected consciousness, meaning to say the soul, the soul, the individual soul, is not subject to death. So the body-mind complex as a whole, the physical, the subtle, and the causal body, once they are properly integrated, that is subject to death as well. But within the context, we understand that the subtle body is insentient, and it's matter, and it's hooked to the physical body, and it produces the reflected consciousness, which is the ahaṅkṛta, that feels and determines and acts, and it goes through several states, and it's subject to birth and death as an overall entity, okay? But we know the subtle body survives the death of the Jivatma entity. Once it is associated with the subtle body, the soul dissociates from the subtle body, and it remains there, craving for another medium of experience. Let's say how Swami P is going to unfold this short, concise verse. Here the author adds an incidental information which is required for further development. Until now, the mind that has the substantial and the sought portions has been discussed. The vrits and the reflecting medium. This twofold mind is, or aham, is a part of the parent body called subtle body. It's saying that it is born, or there is a parent. What produces it, what brings about this twofold mind, the mind that feels, senses, and determines and knows. So it is apparent, it's born out of the body called the subtle body, because it is in the subtle body that the ahaṅkṛta emerged, which is the material cause of the mind. The subtle body is the material cause of the mind. The subtle body is the invisible body behind the visible live physical body. So again, the subtle body is there, okay? It's reflecting consciousness, producing the ahaṅkṛta. The ahaṅkṛta has these twofold functions, okay? It depends on the twofold structure, the material and the rich aspect, and then it experiences and it determines, and it needs to be hooked up with the physical body to interact with the physical world. The subtle body is the invisible body, which pervades the physical body, enlivening the physical body. The subtle body consists of the physical, the 5 organs of knowledge, the 5 organs of experience, 5 organs of action, the 5-fold psychological, physiological systems, the prana systems, with the mind, along with the mind and thoughts. Okay, now it's presented with a lot of 5s there. We have the 5 sense organs or organs of knowledge, the 5 organs of action, the 5 physiological systems, and then he threw the mind and the thoughts. No. Often we say the mind, but here, since we have split the mind into the aham and the other thoughts, or the substantial nature and the aham idam thoughts, it's present there as well. Previously, it was said that the 3 states of experience belong to the mind. And here, it's said that the 3 states of experience belong to the subtle body. So there is no contradiction. We need to again and again understand the context and see what is the definition of subtle body and mind. And we know that more often than not, the subtle body is also said to be the mind, although the mind has its 2 natures, the substantial and the sentient thought nature. So it says that the 3 states are experienced with the subtle body. It's basically the same thing. It is the reflected consciousness, the ahaṅkṛta, that goes through these 3 states of experience. The mind thought party is the parent, okay, is the mother. The mind thought part has a parent body, which is the subtle body, as we have understood already. It is one unit and inert by itself, but becomes sentient because of consciousness, which reflects in the subtle body, as we know. It's called also the subtle body, this reflecting medium. It is one unit. What it means, one unit? It means that you cannot separate the mirror from an image reflecting the mirror. You understand? So it's a very, very subtle and intriguing phenomenon. This consciousness, this reflect consciousness shines, because it shines or reflects in the subtle body. You cannot have one without the other, okay? And are they 2? Yes and no. One is its substantial nature, and the other is the reflected nation, which is the ahaṅkṛta. So it's one unity, and fundamentally it is inert by itself, but it becomes sentient and alive because of consciousness, because of reflected consciousness, howsoever we want to see. When we say because of reflect consciousness, we have to understand that it's because of consciousness, without which reflect consciousness is not possible. Okay. This subtle body alone goes through the 3 states, or this ahaṅkṛta alone goes through the 3 states. Okay. The reflecting medium and the reflection, which cannot be separated, goes through 3 states. Okay. The author adds another important information in this verse. At the time of death, the physical body alone is destroyed. So when we read it, it seemed that it was the insentient subtle body, and the reflection is subject to be born and die. And here he corrects it, and he says that okay. The author adds another important information in this verse. At the time of death, the physical body is destroyed, and only alone is destroyed. The subtle body survives. Previously, it was said that consciousness continues to survive even after the fall of the body. But here it's making a point to say that the subtle body also survives the death of the physical body. Maybe I read it wrongly, the verse 12. Let me take a look. The one insentient subtle body, which is constituted of mind and ego, goes through the three states. So we are talking about the ahaṅkṛta that goes through the three states. And it is born and it dies. Okay. So it's subject to interpretation. When you say that one goes through three states, and then we could say that is the jivatma fully operative, operational, because it requires the physical body to really go through the three states, because the awakened states requires the physical body. So that's maybe it goes through three states. The three states requires also the physical body, the Vishwa. Yes, Lynn?
Yeah, it's authors going back and forth with different ways they look at mind, because it seems like in that verse, he was equating the subtle body, as you say, with the ahaṅkṛta, not with the pranas and the organs of action and stuff like that. So
yeah, and because when it says that the subtle body goes through three states, and then it's implied that during the awakened states, the physical body needs to be present, because the awakened states require the physical body. The dream state requires the subtle body, and this deep sleep requires the causal body. When it says that this ahaṅkṛta, the mind and ego, they go through states, and then it is encompassing the three states and the three bodies, and the jivatma is fully manifest through the three states. They are subject to time, because the physical body dies. I think is that the angle.
yeah, and also the subtle body is the karma stream, right? So that can't really die.
Yeah, no, that's the body of the vasanas manifested that pops up in the conscious mind, that stays and goes into its causal formations, into the causal body. Pralaya sometimes even, but does not dissolve. It dissolves only according to the scriptures with self-knowledge. Okay, so the author adds another important information in this verse. At the time of death, the physical body only is destroyed. The subtle body survives. Previously, it was said that consciousness continues to survive even after the fall. And here the author presents the notion that the subtle body also survives. So I haven't seen this notion present in the verse itself, but it's okay. So Paramarthananda seems to be adding up notions or concepts to that verse, because here it said that the subtle body also survives. So unless I misread the verse, it borns and it dies, and then it borns again, maybe, because when we say that it borns again, it means that the subtle body survives and to produce another birth, right? You got that? Survives the death of the physical body. Otherwise, it would not be born again and again and again. Okay, and then Swami Paramarthananda, the book here, the transcription, presents the next class, in which he does a summary of the verse 12. Let's see what we can, without being too repetitious. Therefore, the mind and the seer alone goes through the three states of experience. A fully passive mind experiences deep sleep. A partially active mind experiences dream, and the fully active mind experiences awake. This is a nice statement. So a fully passive mind experiences deep sleep. A mind that is partially active and partially passive experience the dream, and the awakened state is a mind that somehow utilizes the three bodies to be fully active to experiencing the Vyavaharika. Experience Vyavaharika, experience the Pratibhasika, and experience Anandamaya Kosha all in one package, we could say, during the awakened state. When the mind is fully active, sense organs join the mind. Yes, they do not stay as separate seers when the mind is awake. The mind and the sense organs together experience the waking state. Then the author said that when one talks about mind, one should remember both parts of the mind, the substantial and the rich parts. Both of them are responsible for cidābhāsa, for reflect consciousness or jiva atma, and together go through the three states. So the substantial aspect and the sentient aspect, they cannot be separated. They both go through the three states of experience. You need a reflecting medium to produce an experience entity. And as we know, in the three states, we have an experience entity. So the reflecting medium on different conditions is going to go together with the reflected entity, reflected consciousness, to experience the three states. In one state, the mind experiences the external world. In another state, the mind experiences the internal world. And in between these two experiences of the world out there and my inner impression, there is a rest. The author adds a point. Not only the mind goes through these three states, the very same mind goes to the next birth as well. So this is a nice summary. So the mind goes through these three states, but the mind also survives until it gets another birth. The mind is a part of the big parent body called the subtle body. So this jiva atma is the mind is a part of the bigger parent body called the subtle body. The subtle body is the mother of the jiva atma, in the same way our mommy is the mother of our physical body, as we often say. The subtle body has 17 parts, as was described, 555 plus the ego, and the thoughts happens to be one important. The subtle body, along with the mind at the time of death, leaves the physical body. The subtle body, which is not separate from the mind, the ahaṅkṛta and its vasanas, leaves the physical body and takes another physical body in due times to go again and again through the states of experience. Thus, the seer one, the sense organs, and the seer two, the mind, in the form of the subtle body and the vrit, travel from body to body. This is nice. So the seer one, it's the subtle body is doing everything alone. No, consciousness, and the seer one, the sense organs, the seer one, because it's inverted here. The mind, the seer two, in the form of the subtle body, travel from body to body. And we have to include that the seer three does not travel, but it's present through this transmigration, because nothing is really there without the seer tree, which is consciousness. Okay, consciousness does not travel. Consciousness is all pervasive. Consciousness is the substratum, it's there. And then we have those two levels of seer, the sense organs connecting the world, and the mind developing one subjective experience of the world. So they utilize the physical body until it is replaced. It goes to a rest and it's replaced by a new body in due time. Yeah, here it says it does not need to travel. Consciousness does not need to travel. The seer three, the absolute seer, does not need to travel. Why? Because it's all pervading and available through the two experiential seers, or three or four, depending on how we want to break those different levels of seer, yeah? Of experiencer. When it said that the Jivatma travels from one loka to another, ooh, talking about loka here, now I got excited. Let's see if there is going to be some sort of revelation for us here. And the other day I looked into the timing and I understood that it's not so difficult for me to call Swami Paramarthananda from here. It's only 8 hours and a half. From the United States, it was very difficult. Nowadays, from here, it's possible. And I want to talk to him about that, unless he tells us everything right now, right here, in this full disclosure. When it said that Jivatma traveled from one loka to another, the travel refers to the seer 1 and seer 2. Yeah? So it's referring to the experiencing aspect, the relative seers, yeah? Meaning to say the sense organs and the mind. So this level of seer, yeah, is going to travel. They are integral part of the Jivatma, the sense organs, and the mind integrating the sense organs. So it said that this is what the Jivatma is, the soul is, and this soul, it travels not only from body to body, it travels through the 3 states, and here it said that it travels from one loka to another. So this loka, maybe he's just again pointing out that the 3 states are different realms of experience or lokas of experience, which does not offer us much disclosure, but offers us an indication that lokas are something similar to different states, mental, emotional states, that can be more and more pure or more and more dense, or more and more subtle, more and more dense, with different frequencies, as we often hear in the spiritual, esoteric circles, When it said that the Jivatma travels from one loka to another, the travel refers to the relative seers, the sense organs and the mind. The ego, the Jivatma, does the travel, not consciousness. And this is clearly referred to in the Bhagavad Gita. So let's say what Lord Krishna says. This self is never born, and nor does it die. It's not that having been, it ceases to exist again. It is unborn, eternal, undergoes no change whatsoever, and it's ever new. When the body is destroyed, the self is not destroyed. So the self does not transmigrate or travels from birth to birth, does not travel from the states of the 3 states of human consciousness. It does not travel from the awakened, or does not travel from the status of a fully expressed Jivatma, having access to a physical body, to these other entities that may exist, as it seems, on different lokas, superior lokas or inferior lokas. The self is always there, unconcerned, as the substratum of all of that, is conscious existence, the light in which all these phenomena occur. Okay, let's finish this paragraph. Vedanta is nothing but shifting from seer 1, the seer, through the sense organ, the seer 2, the ego, And then the seer too is the one having the power, because we have the intellect there at our side, the ego, right? That has the power to claim my true self to be the seer 3, or just Sākṣī Chaitanya, right? Consciousness, not the ego, not the mind, not the intellect. Until that shift takes place, the cycle of birth and death will continue. The mind sense organs bundle collected the subtle body. The mind sense organs bundle the mind sense organs bundle called the subtle body. So the subtle body has several functions. It functions through the mental, emotional aspect of the aham, and the sense organs are there. The pranas are there as well, offering a certain level of experience that's not discussed in the Drsya. So it's a bundle of functions that constitute the ahamkara. It's called. It sometimes is presented as the reflecting medium. The subtle body goes through the 3 states of experience when the individual is alive. And once he loses or she loses the physical body, it departs the dead body until it takes another birth. So Swami P does not say what the subtle body does meanwhile, because Vedanta is not much into these matters, esoteric matters, as we know. The Vedanta is about understood and claiming our identity as this seer number 3, as presented here, that which is always present, never does anything, never changes, which is beyond time, therefore not subject to mortality or anything. Death is dissociation of the subtle body from the physical body, as we know, and birth is again association of the subtle body with the physical body. As we know, Sākṣī Chaitanya does not associate with any bodies. Sākṣī Chaitanya is, among other things, associationless, okay? Because it pervades everything, is the substratum on which these 3 bodies come into play. Never leaves, never goes anywhere, just like space, not vacating the house when the occupants of the house vacate the house. The cycle of birth and death has been going on from beginningless time. This is a nice concept. Right? So when did my soul begin? Oh, I'm a young soul. So I have had 5 incarnations on this planet, maybe. So, but when did this subtle body begin? When this cycle of birth has begun, it says that it's beginningless, and there's no way we can trace back our first incarnation. Maybe some people may find it on this planet, but how about in other realms and in other planets, even physical planets? We don't know. We don't know nothing about that. It goes from beginningless time and it will go on endlessly until the individual gets jnana and claims its true identity as the seer 3 consciousness. With this verse, the author concludes the discussion of the formation and function of the 3 seers. So the 3 seers now was properly explained. Hereafter, the author gets into the main topic of the Drsya Viveka, namely the cause of samsara and its remedy. Now we talk. We have been talking, it has been lovely to understand the instrument of experience, the way it was conformed, the way it functions in the world, and so on. It creates the background, the context on which by now we can understand what happens with this jivatma, with this ahamkara, that it suffers what we call samsara. And not only that, it's going to present the remedy. Okay, so it's exciting that now we're going to go into the most important. So the remedy, how to take the remedy, how often, and the dosage, and so on, so that we can cure the samsara once for all. Okay, was beautiful class today, and lovely to be with you. And we meet again next Monday, Ishvara willing. Okay, and then I will talk to you. No, not yet, because in 2-3 weeks I'm gonna travel for medical kind of intervention, or I don't know, something in regards to my cervical, and I will be absent maybe for entire week. But we talk later about that. And so, Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, my friend. Thank you, Swami Paramarthananda, for this beautiful transcription. And we meet again soon. Namaste. Good rest of the day.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Beautiful teaching. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Arlinda. That was wonderful.
Thank you, my friends.
God bless. Good
God bless you.
travels.
Thank you.
Bye now.